All right, hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening. We called our meeting to order earlier in our closed executive session, so we are now ready to begin the public portion of tonight's meeting. I will turn it over to Dr. Adderhold if he has any quick comments.
Good evening, everyone. Just one brief comment to start before I do the budget presentation after a couple other speakers. Just want to note that earlier this week, we sent out an update regarding the school calendar for the 24-25 school year with respect to emergency closings. As you know, we haven't had to close due to weather this year. As such, we still have 3 emergency closing days built in. The first scheduled one is on April 1st. However, on the calendar, it's labeled the second closing day. We're reordering, and we're gonna reopen or release the April 1st date. So the district will continue to reserve April 21st and May 23rd just in case of a late season storm. But with respect to all WWP schools will be closed on April 1st, and all WWP schools will be closed on Monday the 31st, Tuesday, April 1st, and will reopen on April 2nd. So we'll be closed on Monday the 31st, Tuesday the 1st, and we reopen on the 2nd. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, Dr. Adderhold. And now I'd like to turn the floor over to our student representatives from High School South. Tonight we have Anna Chen and Rachel Joseph. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for having us. So after the busy month of February, us South students have gone to breathe and relax for a little bit as we transition from winter to spring. So as winter sports came to a close, many South students were eager and excited for spring sports to begin. And this past week, tryouts for all spring sports concluded, and we want to wish all of our teams best of luck for the season ahead, especially since many programs have their first scrimmages this week. However, before we completely move forward, we would like to highlight our girls track team, specifically our 4x400 sprint team, which is made up of South seniors, and they placed 25th at New Balance Nationals this past weekend, setting an indoor school record for the girls team of 3:58.79. So we're very proud of all of our athletes, and we know they'll see great success during their outdoor season. Lastly, North and South's United program held yet another basketball game hosted at the North Gym on February 26th, where students from both high schools and students from the track program got to participate in a little friendly competition. In terms of club and council activities, South Student Council and North Student Council held an annual dodgeball tournament. We saw great participation from both schools, and everyone had a good time, with the winning team even getting a courtesy prize and picture. And during the past month, our AVID program also held a successful parent night where they were able to introduce the AVID program to incoming 9th graders and generate a lot of interest as rising freshmen begin to schedule their classes for high school. And I'll pass it off to Anna.
Thank you, Rachel. This month, our upperclassmen were able to partake in some very exciting trips. From March 7th to 11th, the senior class flew down to Florida for a couple fun-filled days at Disney World. Under warmer weather, the seniors got to experience all 4 parks over the course of 4 days with all the wonderful sights and attractions. Meanwhile, the junior class went to Washington, D.C. and had a great time. They explored the city, visiting the Capitol and memorials, and met with government officials, one of them who is a South alumni. After returning back from Washington seminar, juniors completed the NJGPA as their final state test for the graduation requirement. Looking forward, spring calls for some exciting events. This Friday evening, SASA, our South Asian American Student Association, plans to hold a celebration for Holi that will be filled with food and fun. And next month, our junior class will attend prom at the aquarium. We can't wait for the events that our second semester will bring, and now we will hand it off to North.
Hello, everyone. To start off, winter sports have formally ended with North's basketball team making it to Central 4 finals, where they unfortunately lost against Montgomery High School, ending their season with a final record of 23 wins and 6 losses, going down as the greatest team in North history. Congrats to Coach Beasley for being named Colonial Valley Conference Coach of the Year, and congrats to Malachi for being named Colonial Valley Conference Player of the Year. Spring sports are up and running with tryouts ending last week. North students are also really excited for Belonging Day, formerly known as DEI Day. Students had the opportunity to choose which session they would like to participate in earlier this month, and this day will take place tomorrow in school.
Looking towards our clubs, North FBLA attended their state leadership conference last week, where they were able to present and win many awards, most notably North student Alana Tiagi, who became a state officer for the 2025-2026 year. Juniors completed NJGPA testing last week, while our freshmen, sophomores, and seniors enjoyed the delayed opening, which was very refreshing. High School North held its own musical from February 27th to March 2nd, and the musical was a huge success, with almost every show selling out, and the show featured A Little Shop of Horrors, one of my personal favorites. North Mall Congress will attend Penn MC next week from the 27th to the 30th, where they will compete against schools from across the nation, and we wish them good luck and a great time. And moving on to some student council events, High School North Student Council held dodgeball with South, as many kids from both schools got together for a lot of fun. And High School North Student Council will also be sticking to the kind of sports theme and hosting March Madness this Friday for teams to play for the trophy at our school. And finally, High School North is looking to host its annual Tonight Show, which is a talent show for all of its seniors. And we wish all of our seniors good luck, which will be held next Saturday on March 29th at 7 p.m.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Anissa, Johnson, Anna, and Rachel. Always a pleasure to hear about all the ongoing events in high school, from sports to academics to arts, culture, and belonging. So thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your evening, unless you want to stick around for our next very exciting topic, which I am proud to introduce Dr. Adderhold, who will give us our tentative budget presentation.
Good evening. Members of the Board of Education, members of the public, administration, PTA representatives, students, members of the community. My name is Dave Adderhold, the proud superintendent for the school district for the past 12 years. And I'm proud tonight to present the tentative budget for the 25-26 school year. As we enter this particular budget build, it is not a normal year for lots of different reasons, and tonight I'm going to talk about some of the factors influencing the budget. We start, of course, with our mission statement, where we talk about building upon our tradition of excellence. The mission of West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District is to empower all learners to thoughtfully contribute to a diverse and changing world with confidence, strength of character, and love of learning. And we're going to circle back during tonight's presentation and talk about this mission statement, because as a component of our district's budget presentation, we'll also be exploring the explicit connection to the mission statement, our strategic goals, and the last 15 years of explicit focus on creating a community of belonging in which all students feel a part of our community and all staff members. So unfortunately, this budget arrives at a moment in history where there's some challenges about how we're going to be funded, and I'm going to speak to that this evening. We have 4 adopted strategic goals, and each one of these strategic goals we'll be speaking about as the evening goes on, so I'm going to move past this quickly, but we're going to spend some in-depth focus on it as we go on. Our 25-26 budget, like all the others in front of us in the past, it's important to remember that a budget is a planning tool. Budgets consider contingencies, so we don't have a credit card, we don't have a line where we can reach out for additional aid, so we must figure out how to manage risk, whether it's a rampant inflation, whether it's energy spikes, whether it's an out-of-district placement we weren't anticipating. We have to manage risk. We have to be fiscally responsible to our taxpayers, and there's a lot of rules of the road with respect to what we can and cannot do with respect to raising taxes. Most importantly, budget's a reflection of our values. So as we talk about the budget this evening, we're going to be talking a lot about how budget should be and is a reflection of what we value as a school district. And as I referenced, safeguards and buffers. And what happens in a budget, any funds that are not spent in a budget year go back to the taxpayers in a future budget. So that's the part of being fiscally responsible. At the highest of levels, a school budget, in theory, is about priorities. What do we want for our students? What do we want for our goals? What we want for their future? But it's so much more than that. So we have to make decisions with finances in mind, but we have to be ground to what our mission, vision, values, and goals are. And so we operate on a fiscal year of July 1 through June 30th. Townships, of course, are on an annual year. So a budget also overlaps 2 budget years for a township. So sometimes when we talk about like what's impact, the impact is sometimes difficult because it's spread across 2 fiscal years for a township with the tax base. So whatever is done, there's 2 simple rules that we always have to follow as a school district. Our tax revenue must be within cap or cap plus allowances, and there's a handful of allowances we're allowed under code, and most of them fall under 2 major areas. There's 4, but really 2 only really apply. One is on enrollment, and the other is on a spending growth limitation adjustment for healthcare. And the second part is that revenues must equal expenses. So we can't have our revenues that exceed expenses. And when we fall into this budget cycle, a calendar is created by the Department of Education. We're within that cycle right now. By tomorrow, the Board of Education must adopt and file a preliminary budget submitted to the county superintendent. So we'll do that this evening. We'll submit to the county tomorrow. They go through a review period, provide feedback, ask for clarifications, and then by our April 29th board meeting, we have an official hearing for the adoption of the official budget. Now I want to pause and just recognize the business department, Dr. Russo, Derek Mead, Bonnie Cheney, the finance committee, all of our administrative team that's here in the audience this evening, because thanks to all of their hard work over time, our district has achieved 16 consecutive years of Certificate of Excellence by the ASBO, which is the Association of School Business Officials, and we've also 8 consecutive years received the Meritorious Budget Award, also by ASBO International. This is not common across the state, and it's a real tribute and credit to Dr. Russo and his team. So where's the money come from? Well, it comes from our taxpayers, and it comes in different buckets. It comes from our local taxes, our state aid, our federal aid, but at the end of the day, that's taxpayer money. Grants that come from the federal government. There is interest that can be achieved on funds. We can have tuition dollars and surpluses and withdrawals from reserve accounts. So when I said money goes back to the taxpayer in a subsequent budget, that's budgeting surplus. So something important to think about with revenue is while expenses can and do change during a year, revenues for the school district often do not in a normal year. But we're not in a normal year. So one of the big bucket categories is federal aid, and I'll speak to that in a few moments. So as a district, we can't ask for more money if expenses begin to rise during the year. So if we have rise in transportation costs, we have additional out-of-district routes, we have additional athletic routes, we need additional staff because we have move-ins. You might notice all the construction happening in the town. If the residents, we don't know how many kids are coming into those new residents, so if all of a sudden we get hit with a spike in children and we need to add additional staff and programs, we can't go back to the taxpayers and say, hey, we didn't know, we need to get additional money from you. That's not how it works. We have to make do from within the budget that gets adopted today as well as on the 29th for the formal budget. With revenue, there's again that law that says we're 2% from year to year, but it's not just 2%, and that's on the general fund tax levy. That's on the local share. But it's 2% in allowances. And the way the allowances work, you earn them in a year, and then you get 2 subsequent years to spend it as well. And when you don't spend it in 1 year, but you had tax authority, it's called bank cap. So you'll see later on in what we're projecting for this year that we will be requesting the utilization to the board to use the bank cap. Now our district again, has additional tax authority to collect debt. Our district has done bond referendums in the past in which we have the legal authority to collect the debt. As of right now, we pay the majority of our debt out of general fund. We do not collect the debt above and beyond to the taxpayers. It's built within the general fund, or it's built out of our capital reserve accounts. So it really comes from those two funds, which at the end of the day was money collected from the taxpayers, put into different buckets, and then we're not collecting in addition to that. And where does this go? All this money that's collected, and we have 9,000 students. We have about, arguably $500 million of depreciable assets. Salaries and benefits is the number one driver. We're a people business. Those people get health care benefits. Health care is increased at an extraordinary rate. We have utility costs. We've worked to mitigate those utility costs by doing ESEPs, or energy savings improvement programs. 3 of our schools are energy neutral right now. When we're done with ESEP 2, we'll be up to 5. We have repairs and maintenance, no different than a homeowner. You have a replacement cycle on boilers and roofs and sidewalk repairs and maintenance on your yards and paint that needs to be done. Schools are no different. We're just a much bigger footprint. And then it comes to professional services. These are contracted services, everything from photocopy companies to food services and building and grounds support. We have our technology and our transportation departments, out-of-district tuitions, support services, special education costs, out-of-district tuitions, out-of-district transportation. And then we get to spend some money on supplies, textbooks, materials, student activities. A very small percentage of our budget is actually spent on stuff for students. Right? It's a lot of people stuff, but actually direct supplies, textbooks, materials, stipends is actually a very small portion of the budget. And of course, capital projects, and that's going back to that idea of fiscal management of the facilities. So some of the considerations for the 25-26 year. For us this year is just special education, out-of-district tuition increases, and program expansion. So out-of-district providers are not held to a 2% cap, so they often will exceed 10% on an annual basis. And then when we talk about program expansion, I'm proud of our special services team. We've constantly looked to build programs in-house. We have 3 or really 2.6 growth positions. All are based on mitigating costs or expansion of programs to mitigate cost and to keep students in-house. I'll speak to those 3 positions momentarily. We are going out for bid for our custodial contract renewal. We're in year 5 of a 5, so we have just received approval from the state for our contract or for our bid documents to go out. I believe it closes on the 7th or 8th of April, and then we'll go through the process of interviewing and looking at new contract providers for custodial. Now, we did bring back maintenance in-house, and we did bring back ops foremen or for positions. So we do have some control with our building and grounds department on site at each of our buildings and with our maintenance staff. But that wasn't always the case. When I first got to district and the district outsourced my second year, end of my first year. We also know there's some staffing needs both in our special education department and our multilingual learners. We've had a rise of need in our with our MLL students, specifically at some of our lower grades. And so we've had to look at numbers year to year as students move into the community. And this is it's formerly known as English as a second language or English language learners. Now the state term is multilingual learners, recognizing our students come to us with knowledge of another language and they're acquiring language, a second language, so they're multilingual learners. Then, of course, with transportation, we have cost of routes, and we talk about CPI. CPI is the Consumer Price Index. Transportation routes are based on CPI, but the CPI is determined with the local transportation CPI between New York and Philadelphia in an 18-month look back, or it's really 24-month look back with a 6-month gap, so it's over an 18-month period. Of course, other challenges are things like driver shortages and fuel increases in costs, insurance costs as well for transportation. I've mentioned facilities projects. I'll share some of those in a few moments. We have negotiated contracts, so we have salary increases just by nature of moving individuals within the nature of their contracts. And those are negotiated in good faith with our partner associations. And of course, insurance. And insurance is always a challenge in a time period where cybersecurity threats and natural disasters. Remember, insurances are in pools, so it's not just what happens to WWP, but fires and floods across the nation could impact insurance pools. There's also theft, and we've talked about catalytic converter theft. We've talked about impacts to COVID. We talked about some of the medications for COVID that came off the state that used to be paid by the federal government or by the state, now not being covered by them anymore, so it falls to our health insurances. But we've done some things in the healthcare side to try to, again, decrease costs over time. I referenced staff increases in special ed, and there's 3 positions built in. Another board-certified behavior analyst. This will be our 5th in district with special services. These are services that when students need them, we have to contract out at a very high rate. And we've done an analysis of the amount of money we've paid in addition to our existing staff, and it more than warrants an additional growth staff by offsetting our contract services. Same thing with speech therapists. So when we have speech therapy needs and we do not have enough staff to provide the services, we ultimately contract services out. Same thing. We looked at the costs, how much we're spending versus how much it would cost to increase a staff member, and then we can offset those costs. The teacher is specific to a postgraduate location. We had 72 Grover's Road. We're at the old Montessori at the left side of North there. With that particular building, we have our post-grad 18 to 21-year-old program for students with multiple disabilities. And we do have a large number of students exiting high school north and going over to 72 that will exceed our current staffing. But once again, if we weren't to have another staff, the amount of money to provide for students to receive the services that they deserve and that they're entitled to would far exceed the cost of a staff position. So once again, all 3 of these positions, while increased positions, are offset, or they offset other costs. And then, of course, I just referenced this, but it's worth warranting again. We get hit with tuition increases, again, well in excess of 10% from out of district. When I first came to district 16 years ago, we had over 120 students out of district. We now have just over 80. And that's a real credit to our special services team and the amount of programming that they've built in-house. A credit to our staff and all the support services and providers that work with them. On the C&I side, curriculum instruction side, there's just a bunch of programs and things that I'll talk through the alphabet soup up there. Tech platforms and subscription. So this is just, in a post-COVID world, as we had online provider programs, some of these programs have stayed to provide additional supports for students. OG is Orrin Gillingham training. It's something that we're committed to. DLI, as you know, we have a K-6 program currently for dual language immersion in both Mandarin and Spanish. And as we phase that program forward, we're always working on training, providing support to that new staff that comes in, as well as any turnover that occurs throughout the program. Our MTSS and intervention programs, that's our multiple tiered systems of support. And that, again, needs some dedicated focus with respect to support materials, intervention, with respect to training, materials, sometimes tech platform subscriptions. But at the end of the day, it's direct services to students that need help and have been identified either in Tier 1, 2, or 3. And Dr. Gould will speak a little bit to that later. And then, of course, Responsive Classroom, which is really just a program to work with students at the K-5 level around culture and climate, and a specific program that we provide at that K-5 level. In the healthcare, as I referenced, we've made some changes over the last couple of years to try to, again, offset costs and try to contain costs. There's really no controlling healthcare costs. It's really, can you control it, contain it, and beat it down for a year so that you don't have a 20% increase, maybe you get a 10. We just completed our 4th year of being self-insured in December, but due to 2 catastrophic claims that occurred in the last year as self-insured, we did have stopgap insurance. Thank goodness that we had stopgap insurance, because they laser you at the time it was $250 or $275,000 per claim. But those 2 claims alone came in at over 1.5 and 1.2 million each. Now, this is why we have health insurance, and those were catastrophic claims, and those individuals deserved all the treatments that they received. But what it did in our renewal was put the renewal over 30%. So if we didn't go out to bid, and if we didn't work with our brokers and we didn't make those steps, we would have seen a 30% increase for January. Instead, we moved over to a state health insurance fund. We gone out to bid in the fall, and as of January 1, we were able to maintain aspects. The plan itself is the same. The provider is different. So January 1st, we moved over to the shift. We've been able to get a 10.6% increase. Now, here's the scariest part, is that equates to $4.7 million. Our 2% on the general fund is 3.7. So on one category of cost, we're $1 million over, right? We're $1 million over just in one category of cost. And that's the current challenge in building a budget in 25 for the 25-26 school year. As well as here we are in transportation, the consumer price index was 3.57 for the route renewals. And again, we only have a 2%. There's no allowances above and beyond on transportation. So we have to find ways to cover the costs on anything above the 2. Reference capital projects, there's 2 big ones here that just drive the majority of that 11.9. And those I'll just point out is the acquisition of, it says High School North Annex on the left side, second from the bottom, purchase of Pathways property. That's the old Montessori. We're in a lease purchase, or we have a 5-year lease with the option to purchase in year 4 or 5, already previously negotiated. And the top left is the roof replacement at Town Center. And for that particular roof, we have 4.5 budgeted in. And so those 2 alone are over $9 million. But that roof replacement has what's called a ROD grant, or a regular operating district grant, associated with it. And we're fighting for the funding of that due to a paperwork error that occurred through the architect and the state. As such, that project did not make the list, even though it was an eligible round 1 project. And so we have the money allocated, but we will not authorize it unless we receive the ROD grant, because the ROD grant's over $1 million. So we're not going to leave $1 million on the table. But if that money comes through, we have to have it budgeted in order for us. If we don't do the project, the money just goes right back into the capital reserve accounts. It never gets pulled, right? Then we do have some additional projects that you can see up there, everything from rooftop units, the RTUs, and mini splits, and culinary arts, and ESIP, which is Energy Savings Improvement Projects, that we're about to enter our second one. We'll actually be taking 5 resolutions this evening on the bonding of that money. But we've already authorized the PPA agreements, and we've already authorized Schneider Electric as the project manager. So the district has always put explicit emphasis on our facilities from a point of pride, but also from a point of what you don't take care of it gets destroyed over time. So we're doing floors, we're doing carpets, we're doing foyers. We're looking at making sure that we're constantly investing in the property of this community, because it's the community's property and there's value to that. And as I said, it's over $500 million of depreciable assets. So it's a significant responsibility. And honestly, if we were truly putting the right amount towards that, that would be multiples of 11 million. The reality is that's not possible. Within our budget parameters, from appropriation standpoint, these are some of the increases that we're seeing. Again, in healthcare, we're at the 4.7. Because of some work by our transportation department to consolidate some routes, use our in-house drivers differently to offset some of our special ed route costs by using our in-district drivers differently, we actually are able to, in prior budgeting here in transportation, we're actually able to do a slight decrease on the transportation line. We did add dollars on the building and grounds line. Administration line is a lot of different categories: custodial renewals, pensions, FICA, insurance, and other. So you see a big dollar there. Technology is a constant expenditure that we have to put money towards, because everything we do has a tech component now. whether it's for technology replacement cycle or whether it's for additional switches and blades and wiring. Bottom line is we have to continually invest there. Special education, you have tuition costs, you have staffing costs, you have outside programming costs, and then salaries. And these are negotiated salaries. And this is moving, 1,500 people that work in this community, over 900 teachers and another 80 or so certified staff, and then all the non-affiliate staff and the members of the WWPAA. So it's a large organization with lots of moving parts, but that's where the salary lines come. Athletics is everything from increase in stipend costs to a scoreboard to, so you get slight increases. We do have some families that have elected to send their children to charter, primarily the Hatikva up in East Windsor. So we get hit with requests for tuition because the tuition dollars follow the students when they go to charter school. So we have had a slight increase, but that's essentially like a family. So it looks bigger than it is. Some of the unknowns, and this is going to get us into I think some of our next part of the presentation, but the prescription increases in December, the healthcare increases in December are just drivers that we can't control because it's, again, from January 1 to June of 26. We don't know what those increases are going to be at that point. Staffing challenges due to statewide shortages. As you may know, if you have a teaching certification, chances are you're employed or you're bouncing from one district to another for a higher salary guide. We used to graduate over 6,000 students a year from teaching. Now we're at about 2,200 in teaching prep programs across the state. And that's a 13, 14-year glide path of that data. So we're bleeding out staff, but it's not WWP, it's the industry, and it's every state. So, parents, if you want your children to have a job right out of college, send them to be teachers. They'll have to work 43 years to do the pension, but that's a different conversation. The potential loss of federal is where we need to spend some time because the potential loss of federal aid is something that's plaguing all school districts, and it's plaguing all school districts in all states. It's also plaguing all state agencies, and it's quite frankly creating havoc across the federal government. So for public ed, we get our money in a couple different buckets. The title grants, right? That's Title 1, 2, 3, 4A. IDA, which is the Individuals Disability and Education Act. Medicaid, which is a relatively small amount of money for districts, a large amount of money for the state. But for WWP, we had a 90% reduction on our state aid notification for Medicaid. That translated to about 135,000 of unexpected lost revenue coming in, and where that comes from is the projection that there could be massive changes to the Medicaid program at the federal level, which impacts reimbursement. So for us, the kind of things you'd see reimbursement for is occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy services. Those paperwork gets completed, sent to the state, they submit on our behalf. They keep 70%, we keep 30%. Well, we get 30%. That's sort of how it works. But they sent an allocation that we only are getting at 10% of what we received this year as a projection because of the expected changes at the federal level. And NSLP is the National School Lunch Program. And so that's a dollar that we receive as a reimbursement for students that receive free and reduced lunch services. And they qualify through a process, they get fed, and then we submit on their behalf for the reimbursement of the dollars, and then the district gets reimbursed for making sure students eat. That's also potentially in jeopardy right now. Well, they're going to eat. It's just they might not get reimbursed. So what's this money look like for us? It's $3.1 million. Now that's outside of Medicaid. I'm keeping Medicaid separate because Medicaid's a reimbursable. So it's 600 and change in title grants. And where's that money come from, or what's it for? It's for struggling learners, professional development, staff targeting students that need support. And so then we have IDEA, primarily, again, students with disabilities and special needs. It's for staffing, but majority of it goes to tuition, for students' tuition. And then about just under $500,000 for food reimbursement. So those are three big categories, and then I mentioned Medicaid's about 135. It's a much bigger deal at the state level because it's $24 billion for the state. And they're predicting a 2.2 to 5.2 billion reduction potentially based on recommended changes to Medicaid at the federal level. So we're going to now talk about why is it at risk? And I need to set the context of why it's at risk. And it's at risk because there's been a slew of executive orders and dear colleague letters and others that come out of the federal government over the last several weeks, just weeks, around a multitude of topics, from immigration to diversity, equity, inclusivity, and gender, sexuality, and others. So because in WWP, this is not only what we do, but it's who we are. And it's been at the epicenter and the focus of all our work over the last 16 years that I've been in this community. And for the board, you can see in the audience the amount of individuals that have come out in support of this work. This is what our community has been grounded in, but we're going to spend a little time defining it, because this is what's at risk. Because we've arrived at a moment in history where there appears that there's no consensus views on what these words mean, other from the perspective of DEI equals affirmative action, and it equals quotas and restrictions. And that's not what DEI means in WWP. And as a leadership team, as a Board of Education, we can't give away the words diversity, equity, and inclusivity, because we're arrived at a moment where we have interchangeable terms being used that mean different things, even though they have the same initials. So what's happening at the federal level is all DEI programs are being painted over with a broad brush. So if it's DEI, it needs to go away. So the Department of Defense schools have eliminated Girls That Code, because Girls That Code caters to girls in STEM, therefore it's restrictive to males, therefore it's discriminatory. So it's now been eliminated. I'll withhold personal opinion, but I think you can tell. Our governor, in his budget address, made some very specific statements in defense of fundamental rights and freedoms for every New Jerseyan, from voting rights to LGBTQ plus rights to reproductive rights and everything in between. He emphatically said he'll never back down from defending civil rights or the rights of educators to teach full truth of our history. And rather than succumbing to politics and division and fear, we consider it an honor that generations of immigrants have chosen to pursue the American dream here in the Garden State. So one of the first things that happened, when the new administration came in was around immigration. But then very quickly, federal funding started being threatened by executive order with respect to gender ideologies and discriminatory equity ideologies, and saying, like, if you kept certain programs and you had 2-week periods, or you lose your federal funding, or like comply or else. There's a process for the or else, which we can talk to. And then we also know our Attorney General, Matt Plotkin, has worked with, as part of a 15-state plus the District of Columbia Attorney Generals, to come together in a response document to the Dear Colleague letters that I'll reference in a moment, about federal funding, and really just saying, like, the law, even federal laws, support us continuing the work of diversity, equity, inclusivity. even laws we have to comply with that are federal laws, we support us continuing this work. But I think it's also important to note that, okay, this is my American History 1 former self, right? When you teach the Constitution and you talk about Article 1, Section 8, you talk about enumerated powers in the Constitution, powers afforded to Congress, right? Education's not one of them. Education, therefore, under the 10th Amendment, is a state's right, right? And then in New Jersey's state constitution, it specifically talks about the importance of having an education, a thorough and efficient education, and the standard of thorough and efficient ends in New Jersey's definition in state law, under our state constitution. So Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution does not grant the federal government the authority to oversee education. However, that doesn't mean they don't have guardrails. That doesn't mean they can't do certain things. But I'm going to say it's equivalent to the federal highway money. Back in the day, when we started a federal highway and they wanted the speed limit to be 55, if you wanted the money, you had to have the highway speed limit to be 55. So the federal government can give us money with restrictions like 55 miles per hour on the highway. Montana thwarted that. They were the only state that didn't accept it because they like to drive fast out there. But besides Montana, everyone else complied, including New Jersey. And over time, those things changed. Well, we've arrived in a moment of time where we're not sure what's going to happen next. But is it going to be that to accept federal money, you have to agree to certain things? And those certain things might be in opposition of our community values. So one of the first things that happened was the removal of sensitive locations and protections and the concerns of ICE enforcement. We started working on this as a district with some of the statewide associations in November, knowing that this was being talked about as a potential removal of sensitive sites. Sensitive sites are 6 locations around the communities, around the nations, but they're places, schools, bus stops, places of worship, ceremonies, public demonstrations, churches, healthcare facilities. Those protections have all been stripped back. That does not mean that ICE can just come into our schools. Okay, so I don't want to leave anyone with that impression. We have every right to stop officials from entering our schools unless they come with a judicial warrant, an executed judicial warrant. And even there's always been partnership. We've never had a warrant served on a student, qualify that, on a student in school district. But there are then legal protections that fall around this as well, right? In New Jersey, to attend school, you have to be a resident of the community. We cannot ask for, it's not legal for me to ask for visa status or immigration status in New Jersey. You just live in the community, you provide a utility bill and a lease, a utility bill, and 2 things that show an address, and we enroll you. Because we can't ask under New Jersey code that question. Even at the federal level, Plyler v. Doe upheld that students that are immigrant or non-citizens had every right to attend the local public schools as others that lived in that community that were citizens. So that's been determined at the Supreme Court level. Expect that to be challenged in future court cases. We also have FERPA rights, right? That's the Freedom of Education Rights Protections, right? So student privacy and confidentiality. And then the big caveat is LAD, New Jersey Law Against Discrimination. So there's a lot of legal protections here around non-citizens, students, and immigrants. And for those of you that aren't keeping the scorecard on executive orders, these are the 6 that have been issued specific to public ed and schools. And some of them redefined gender to be men and women only for the federal government. Some talked about elimination of DEI. Some talked about the restrictions of funds. Some promoted ending indoctrination in schools. Some talked about the elimination of Title IX, the 2024 version, and rolled it back to the 2020. Some are about basically school choice and vouchers and privatization of public education, and others, interestingly, only for trans women, but no concern for trans men in men's sports. But then we had two Dear Colleague letters. Dear Colleague letters are in quote because they come from the US DOE. They have no legal authority, but they signal what's going to happen if you don't comply. And the first one was issued on February 4th. This basically changed the Title IX rules and rolled back and eliminated gender ideology. I was defending women from gender ideology, so it rolled back gender identity and gender expression back to the 2020 definitions of Title IX. And then on February 14th, the love letter, Valentine's Day from the US DOE, was that saying that American schools have toxically indoctrinated students with false premise that the United States is built from systemic instructional racism, and then goes on to say that DEI smuggles racial stereotypes and explicit race consciousness into everyday training, programming, and discipline. So what are the impacts so far? So far, we know that 50% of the United States Department of Ed has been terminated, including all the National Center for Education Statistics, all the members of the Office of Public Policy for OSEP, that's the Office of Special Education and Programming, the Office of Civil Rights eliminated, but I believe it's been moved over to Health and Human Services as of the main decision yesterday, because it was the OCR for Health and Human Services on the main decision, and the Office of Educational Tech. So in a time of AI, the entire Office of Educational Ed Tech has been eliminated. And if you don't want to follow the laws, the best thing you do is fire the attorneys. So all the attorneys from the Office of General Counsel were eliminated. Your days are numbered, Mark. So the next thing they did was they withdrew $600 million. We're in our greatest shortage of teachers in history, in at least current history, and we've just eliminated $600 million from teacher prep. Now, our Attorney General led the lawsuit against that, and that's currently been stayed as of the other day, but we'll see where that ends up. The cancellation of $660 million, so if you don't think food's on the table, $660 million for local food for school programs. That money goes to farmers to then grow product for local schools, for school programs to feed at-risk families that qualify for free and reduced lunch. I'll speak to the local impact on a future slide. And then I mentioned Medicaid, but it's a big deal for New Jersey. If Medicaid, it's a big deal for every state, but that's 10 to 20% of the Medicaid allocation is $24 billion for New Jersey. So want to then also say, like, there's a lot of laws in New Jersey, a lot of laws. And we went through the policy manual and started looking to say, like, what words would trigger issues? What are the ban words, right? And what are the words that, so we looked up diversity, we looked up equity, we looked at inclusivity, inclusion, and just, these are, anything with an M is mandatory, right? So there's mandatory state policy that we have to be in compliance with. And you can see, there's M's on almost all of them. And then here we go again, with inclusion, with regulations, but we have code of conduct policies. We have other policies regarding our transgender students. We're the second district in New Jersey after Hopewell that passed a transgender student policy before Governor Christie signed it into law, before it was even a thing. So our district has a long history of supporting our students, all students in our community. So, at a very high level, our district mission statement talks about embracing diversity, right? And when we talk about embracing diversity, and I'm going to have some colleagues come up and build upon this, but diversity is embracing differences that everyone brings to the table, right, at a very high level. equity is treating everyone in accordance to meeting their unique individual needs. And inclusion is respecting everyone's voice and creating a culture in which people from all backgrounds feel encouraged to express their ideas and their perspectives. Our mission upholds all this, and so do our strategic goals. When I say it's not just what we do, it's who we are, those are our strategic goals. That's our mission statement. That is the body of our work. If our budget's a reflection of our mission, vision, values, and goals, and we're going to uphold those, that's why this matters in a budget presentation. Tonight's presentation is less about money and more about who we are as a school community. And for our kids, for our students, it's imperative that K-12 schools continue to maintain and strengthen the efforts to prepare our students for a world outside of WWP, for college and career, to a place where they're going to work with individuals across all backgrounds, spectrums, diversities. That's some of our charge. So we must continue to take steps to make sure we're supporting our strategic goals and our mission statement to create and maintain a positive school climate where all students feel safe, supported, respected, and are ready to learn. So at this time, it's my privilege to welcome our Chief Equity Officer, Sutataro, to take us through a couple talking points and slides.
Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. What we want to do over the next few slides is really put you in a place of understanding where our community shows up within the context of our strategic goals, our mission, our vision. As Dr. Adderhold said, the words included in all of those things could put us at a loss of federal funding. My title as the Chief Equity Officer could put us at a loss for federal funding. It's important that you understand where you are within the context of diversity, equity, and inclusivity in WWP. Our first strategic goal really centers around making sure that we are meeting the diverse needs, backgrounds, and approaches to learning of all of our students, utilizing tools and structures that challenge them and enable them to reach their full potential. Those tools might be adaptive technology, the hotspots that we provided for families during the pandemic, structures like our award-winning music program that our students participate in, our robotics team is a structure that lets our students move forward and excel and explore their passions. Just last year, we opened our inclusive playground at Town Center so that every child in that building and in that community can play together on a playground. Our second strategic goal was adopted in 2015, 2016. And when we think about our strategic goals, we're thinking about how we empower our students. The action plan for Goal 2, which is our strategic goal around global competence, included initiatives like the expansion of the dual language immersion program. You can see Governor Murphy there. He is greeting our kindergartners in Mandarin. It's at Maurice Hawk. We also made a commitment to allowing our students and providing our students opportunities to advocate, not just for their own community, but for global challenges. Students across the district advocate for and support multiple community partners, including Homefront, RISE, the Trenton Area Soup Kitchen. Providing students with opportunities to investigate global challenges and support local organizations is critical. Social and emotional learning encompasses belonging. It is a cornerstone of what it is our district does. Recognizing that children need to balance physical, social, emotional, and academic needs, we have committed to maintaining a supportive culture and building structures for the health, safety, and well-being of the whole child. From our United teams, there's our cheer team, they came in first place, to our staff and student basketball game at Grover, Spirit Day at Millstone River School, therapy dogs. This is something that we committed to quite a long time ago. Because if students don't feel safe, they cannot learn. If students don't feel as though they belong, they cannot learn. Our equity goal was adopted in the spring of 2021, and I had the privilege of serving as a co-chair for that committee and presenting to this board the work that we wanted to do. And it was developed in collaboration with the community. West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District will cultivate a diverse and inclusive community where members of every race, sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, religion, socioeconomic class, ethnicity, and national origin are welcomed, valued, and celebrated. As Dr. Adderhold said, this isn't just what we do. This is who we are. Our students have embraced this. These are the affinity groups at both of our high schools. An affinity group is a group of students that have the same interest in exploring their own identities, and they welcome students of other identities. All of these affinity groups are for our students, run by our students, and welcome all students. And you can see the diversity of perspectives and culture and religion and gender identity right here. These are our kids. These are our kids celebrating their culture. These are our kids working together to provide programs for our students with disabilities. These are our kids going together, High School North, our Black Student Union, proud of their identity and sharing it with the rest of the students. Again, there are different ways that we do this. One of the ways that belonging and representation are reflected is in our programs and in our curricular changes. We added our AP African American Studies course. We added our American Pacific Islander course, representing all of our families. We added inclusive text to our K-12 curriculum so that every student could see their family represented in the books that we use, in the resources that we use. Our students embrace who they are. They embrace the fact that they get to go to a school, wherever it is, K-12, where they don't expect everyone to be like them, where the differences are celebrated. So in thinking about this and thinking about why do we need a diverse and inclusive community besides the fact that it is the right thing to do? When students see themselves in curriculum, in programs, in staff, it increases their feelings of belonging. If I do not feel as though I can belong, I do not feel safe. And if I do not feel safe, I cannot learn. Social, emotional, and cognitive skills are deeply intertwined. This is brain science. It leads to more effective learning and longer-term academic achievement. In K-12 schools and beyond, it's not just about the students' times here. And when we think about the world that we live in right now, If our students can recognize and respect the perspectives of others, we have developed the foundational capacity for civic engagement. That's the core goal of education in the United States. Students also learn to address differences in direct and respectful ways, increasing their ability to engage in and facilitate difficult conversations and handle conflict. And we're not that good at that right now in our country. That is something that we need. And it's only by being in a space where you are surrounded by the perspectives of others who are not like you that you can learn to see that there are opposing views and that differences are normal and that we can still come to consensus and make strong decisions. When we first started looking at the executive orders and we talked about what might be at risk because of what we do, these are just other places where our staff, our students, our families, our community are represented. Our school calendar celebrates all of the holidays of our community. Our sports programs reflect our community. As we continue to do this and as we continue to support our teachers in taking through and working through professional development, their goals, and working through the community, we also, when we adopted Goal 4, decided that we needed to have a diversity, equity, and inclusivity coordinator. That role, Pema Nadang, who I'm going to pull up right now, also could cause us to lose federal funding.
Hello, everyone. So, what does a diversity, equity, and inclusivity coordinator do? It is my honor to support our families, students, staff, and community groups through various programs such as our new Parent Link program, which we have updated this orientation of newly registered families, with an awareness that many are not only new to the district, but also new to the American school system. Through these events, we connect families with community resources, such as our local libraries, our PTAs, PTSAs, special ed PTSA, and our African American Parent Support Group. Through my collaboration with Debbie Bear, chair of our Teachers Union Grants, I've been able to support existing programs like our workshops that support our special education and Title I families who may be struggling economically, as well as design events such as our support for English language learner family nights. In working with our admin and staff, we have developed and implemented initiatives such as our TC buddy meetings, our multilingual camp, created to provide opportunities to practice and sustain English language over the summer vacation months. We've expanded the prom shop to now be run by both high school interact clubs and their PTSAs. This year, they provided over 200 free articles of clothing to juniors and seniors to reduce the economic burden of this milestone high school event. We've developed resources and events for various Heritage Month celebrations, such as the High School South Muslim Student Association sharing their experiences of Ramadan as guest readers at Village Elementary. In my work with the affinity clubs, which Sue listed earlier, I support opportunities that build a sense of belonging, such as this high school North potluck and basketball tournament, initiated by our Jewish Community Youth Club and Muslim Student Association. It was hosted by our Affinity Group Alliance and was open to the entire student body. Each month, I curate a staff newsletter highlighting holidays, programs, and events to strengthen our understanding of our WWP community. This month focused on women's history and shared the success of Town Center's inclusive assemblies, which were designed to foster social engagement and mutual understanding between our general education and autism program students. Through this role, I have also been able to lean into my connections with our affinity clubs and local interfaith religious leaders to curate professional development that builds our understanding of different aspects of our students' identities. The relationships I've been able to build with these different community groups have led to our ability to better serve the needs of our community. On April 2nd, we will host our first event to connect our local police department programs with the families of students with special needs. With the support of our PTA, PTSA, and SEPSA and interfaith religious leadership, we were able to get the word out about New Jersey's increased income eligibility for free and reduced meals, raising the number of our students who have access to free and reduced meals, and better improving the chance of our schools to access Title I federal funding, which is now at risk. In partnership with our African American Parent Support Group and with the support of our Pride Grant and both of our high school Black student unions, we were able to host our second successful Black History Family Night event for our K-3 families. The heart of my work and our work, our DI work, is best conveyed by our students. When asked to express what DEI meant to him for the Belonging Matters Student Conference, High School North junior Ayan was inspired to write this poem. It is my hope that every student feels as sophomore student Bhavya illustrated here, that West Windsor-Plainsboro School District strives to be a place where every student feels welcomed, supported, known, included, respected, and recognized. This is a community where belonging matters. And now, our Assistant Superintendent for Personnel, Charity Camilla.
Good evening. So I've been up here before speaking to you about diversity and hiring, and I'm always happy to talk about this topic, especially when we look around the room. I mean, this is one diverse room, wouldn't you say? Just take a look. Look at our Board of Education members, our administration, look at our community. Just on its surface, this looks like a pretty diverse group. And as I was sitting at the table, I was thinking, I know that person or I don't know that person, but they seem very interesting to me. And I bet you if you look around, you'll probably find someone who reminds you of yourself, maybe in how they look, or perhaps there's something about them that you think, oh, that's my neighbor, or there's someone I think that I played a certain sport with. So when we think about, well, why do you love diversity so much, Charity? Well, I'll tell you why I love diversity so much. I've loved diversity way before it was a thing, before we had DEI hires. As far as I'm concerned, all of our hires are DEI hires. I personally chose to come work in this district because of the values that I saw that were implemented here. But before we go into the word diversity and what it means to me, let's make sure that I remind you of some definitions of diversity, because diversity is a very dynamic and broad term. There's like 34 different types of definitions that can go with it. And here's just a few. You know, the ones that we can see are demographic diversity. And that's what I was referring to when I said take a look around. We notice differences in age. We notice differences in gender, race. You can see that usually, and that's in ethnicity, physical abilities. Those are usually the first things that we look for when we're new and we're not sure where we're going to sit and if we're going to like it here or if we want to go to a particular event. A lot of times that's what we do. We take a look at what we can see and we try to find somebody who's like us. But it's not just limited to our gender or our race or ethnicity. It's also our cultural diversity. There's a lot of difference, even in this room, in our beliefs, our values, our customs, traditions, and you know we love traditions. And I'm sure if we compared South to North, we would hear lots of different traditions and how we do things. We love to have our own sorts of traditions and to carry them on. That's just who we are as people. But there's also cognitive diversity. There's differences in perspectives, problem solving, the ways that we approach how we do things. We very much value that about our staff because we have great variance in cognitive diversity. There's always a different way of doing things. And because our teachers have such cognitive diversity, they're able to recognize our students' cognitive diversity as well. There's functional diversity, differences in roles, skills, areas of expertise. So not everybody functions best as the superintendent. There really is only one Dave Adderhold, wouldn't you agree? But it really depends on our position, right? So each of us has a special role. Each of us knows our roles. We try to make sure that when we hire the best person for that role because they excel at it, they're good at it, it's what they love to do. And functional diversity is very important because, there's a great difference in watching somebody who's working with our kindergarten students versus who's directing our buildings and ground staff. Although, depending on the day, you might change your mind on that. There's experiential diversity too. There's differences in life experiences, educational backgrounds, professional experiences. Many of our staff have worked somewhere else in a different district and they can bring in perspectives from another place. But we also have many staff members who were students within our district or they've only worked in our district and they have an interesting perspective as well that they can contribute and share and grow together from. And there's also neurodiversity that I wanted to point out because when we think of students and staff with special needs, there's great variance in skills and abilities. And some of the most brilliant artists, musicians, engineers are very much neurodiverse. So we want to think about them, all that they can bring as far as talents when we think about different types of neurodiversity that you could find. And that's not always seen immediately on the surface. So again and again, our diversity is what makes us great in WWP. So we're a regional school district. We have two different counties. We have West Windsor and we have Plainsboro, but we're two towns. We are united. We have representation on the board from both. We have representation in our audience from both. But altogether, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't be able to tell which town you were from. It's really not easy to tell. We have our school communities. We have very, very involved and strong PTA groups that bring in multiple perspectives from the homes, for the families. We have local supports, different vendors, our educators and our administrators. Many of our administrators even seen in our audience, they are leaders of leaders. We have many of, not only are they principals, supervisors, directors, but they are also in charge of organizations for their content area or specific fields that they are out leading and promoting and educating others in other districts across the state more than anywhere that I have seen. And I've worked across districts on trainings for NJ Stride, as you're aware. West Windsor-Plainsboro is constantly called upon, and our administrators are asked to share, our teachers are asked to share, and to talk about what's happening in our district. And our recruitment efforts. We don't just sit and wait for people to apply to us, although we do tend to be spoiled. We have a long history of having lots of applicants for our districts, but as Dr. Adderhold mentioned, we don't have that long line of applicants anymore simply due to the staffing shortage. So one thing that we've always done really well is not just wait for applicants to apply to us. We go and find the applicants, and we look for diverse hires. And we don't just look for hires that meet a difference in their ethnicity or their gender, but we're looking for all the different types of diversity that I had mentioned. When we ask our questions, when we interview, when we do our demo lessons, we are looking for the full range of diversity that each of our teachers bring. And so we look in multiple universities, we look in different communities, we look to our educator pipelines, we have grow your own programs like our Pathways to Teaching programs for our support staff, we have a teacher apprenticeship network now. We are doing all we can to look within our own community and also to grow our own. And because of that, we have great rewards and retention. We have our staff usually comes in and they stay. There's a lot of professional development. There's lots of learning and support. There's lots of great value on all the contributions that our staff members give and also share. And we're very, very proud that we don't have a mass exodus like some districts do for leaving, our staff leaving to go to other districts. Most of the time when our staff do leave to move to another district, it's for a promotion or it's to advance their career. But by and large, we have many of our retirees, some you will see on tonight's personnel agenda, are long-time staff members that have really grown and contributed to our district and have brought their own individual perspectives. And we are therefore very, very proud. And I'm always proud of the diversity that we're able to cultivate and grow and bring forward, and very much in appreciation for the board's support for our efforts in hiring diversity. So next we're going to be talking about our multi-tiered levels of support from Dr. Gould is not able to be here this evening, so Sue, you want to come on back up?
So as Charity said, some of us have been here a long time. This is my 35th year in the district. I have been a teacher, I have been an interventionist, I have been a supervisor, and now I am the Chief Equity Officer. And it is the first time in 35 years that we are in a position of having to choose between doing the things that define who we are and providing services to students because of the loss of federal funding. One of the things that is funded through federal dollars is our multi-tiered systems of support. Multi-tiered systems of support promote equity. We work with Rutgers Disproportionality Project. Like Dr. Adderhold said, disproportionality is one of those words you're not allowed to use anymore, but as is equity. But it promotes equity by ensuring that every student, regardless of their background, their ability, their need, receives the necessary support to succeed. Because we define equity as being every student, regardless of their identities, has access to the same education as everyone else. And their identity, when they start school, shouldn't determine their path or their success. Multi-tiered systems of support reflects 3 different levels of support. That's why they're called tiers. Tier 1 is just our high-quality, culturally responsive instruction for all students. It's what all of our amazing teachers do. Students that need more have Tier 2 supports. They're small group interventions for students who might need additional help, and we find them through universal screeners. Universal screeners are the assessments that we use to figure out which students need what, and it's also a way to promote equity. Tier 3 is that intensive support for students with greater needs. Multi-tiered supports are supported by federal funds. Our Orton-Gillingham training, K-5, is supported by title funds. Dr. Adderhold talked about those before. The Orton-Gillingham training provides all of our K-5 teachers with strategies for teaching foundational literacy skills. Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, or SIOP, supports multilingual learners, also funded by federal dollars. AIR, American Institute for Research Professional Development, which we learned about at Rutgers with working with Dr. Fergus with the Rutgers Disproportionality Project, and that they have supported us in our district implementation of multi-tiered systems of support and school-based teams so that we can use the data that we collect effectively to target student needs. Our Multilingual Learner Summer Camp supports students with financial barriers. It helps hundreds of students strengthen their language and literacy skills. Hundreds. Dual enrollment which is byproduct of Goal 2. It was something that was an action step that we wanted to take. For those of you that don't know what dual enrollment is, it's the ability for students to take college-level courses while they are in high school. Title funds support students who have financial barriers in accessing those courses. We have technology that we utilize that is also part of our title funding. It supports students who need credit recovery in order to graduate. And our Title I after-school tutoring program. It provides extra academic help for students who need additional support after school. These investments ensure that teachers have the tools, the resources, the skills that they need to help every student succeed. So let's think about where are my students? Remember we said when we were talking about the strategic goals and when Dr. Adderhold was talking about the mission and vision that we are represented in this work. Everyone in the audience, everyone watching, all of our students, all of our staff. These are students, the number of students receiving intervention district-wide. Some students require additional intervention supports in reading and math in a supplemental way in order to continue to make progress. Currently, at K-8, we provide intervention services for 504 students in reading and 374 students in math. Federal funding helps by covering specialized training for our intervention teams and supports 2 full-time intervention positions. Federal funding also supports our Learning Assistance program. At the high school, Learning Assistants work with students in supportive study halls to provide additional academic help. These supports are essential to ensuring that all students have equitable access to the resources and programs they need to grow and succeed. And again, because of our strategic goals, because of our work around diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we value diversity in hiring, this is what the federal government is saying they will not fund. Dr. Adderhold is going to talk about some other impacts and changes to date.
I just want to pause for a minute and just recognize Sue and Charity and Pema for their outstanding contributions this evening. It's a privilege to work with them. So I did say that I'd come back to this slide because Bill 3 hits home. Because the cancellation of the $660 million for local food for school programs will have a direct impact to our weekend bridge meals here in WWP. As some of you know, we partnered with a local organization called Send Hunger Packing. And what Send Hunger Packing has done is provides a backpack full of meals for our families that that are free and reduced qualified for meals that opt in to a weekend program in which breakfast, lunch, and dinner for kids goes home. Send Hunger Packing works directly with Mercer Street Friends. Mercer Street Friends is at risk of losing contributions as a result of this cut. If Mercer Street Friends is impacted, then our kids here in WWP that participate in the Weekend Bridge Meal Program are at risk. So the federal decisions are going to have direct impacts to our families here in West Windsor-Plainsboro. Now, it's real important that we really think about this slide and what we know as a district, what we know as administrators, as teachers, as members of the Board of Education. What we've seen is that when decisions are made that we're making at all levels reflect that deep commitment to equity, diversity, and belonging, when we open our curriculum up so that all students have access to rigorous learning, experience aligned to their strengths, when curricular and extracurricular opportunities and programs support inclusion rather than exclusion, reflecting neurodiversity and physical diversity as strengths, and when each student is visible in terms of resources and opportunities, regardless of their race, sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, religion, socioeconomic class, ethnicity, and national origin, that we as a school community shift outcomes for all students. And in WWP, what we have done is we've adopted a definition from an article in the Harvard Business Review about the belonging. So we believe in anchoring our work in certain texts, and we define belonging as being seen, connected, supported, and proud. We want our students and our staff to be seen for their unique contributions. We want them to be connected to our greater school community, to their school, to our school district, and to have pride in our greater WWP community. We want them to feel supported in their experiences at school, and we want them to be proud of our school district's values and our purpose. So tonight, we bring forward a budget that mitigates the risk of the potential loss of federal aid. And I talked about SGLAs before, the spending growth limitation adjustments in healthcare, and you can see I mentioned the existing year and then 2 back years. So for the 25-26 year, line 4 there, we have $3.7 million that we've generated based on the extraordinary costs of healthcare. In 24-25, we used a portion and we banked $800,000 for a subsequent budget. And expiring is the 23-24 allotment of 1.4. So when you take those pots of money together with our 2%, that means as a district we can raise $9.7 million in revenue. We did have a state aid decrease because there's some shifts in the formula and how they categorically counted special education pupil costs. So we had a loss of $484,000 there. And I mentioned the Medicaid reimbursement slice of 90%. So that leaves us with $9.1 million. Due to our cost increases on the other side for our allocations was at 11 and change, almost 11.5, 11.6. We made the difference up through budgeting additional surplus dollars that came through tax relief in the subsequent year to close the gap. So tonight, we bring forward the 2% general fund tax increase plus the 3 SGLAs, the cap reserve allocation of 11.9 for a budget recommendation of 5.223%. While that is a large percentage increase, we also built within that protects the district in all the programs that you heard tonight for the potential loss of federal funds. So the budget brings forward in addition, built within this is $2.6 million to offset the loss of federal dollars should that happen, so that every single thing we're doing, every single thing we believe in, every service that we provide, every tuition we pay, every after-school tuition, every extracurricular program, tutoring program, professional development training, and staff member salary that's supported, including the chief equity officer and the diversity, equity, and inclusion coordinators positions all stand regardless of what the federal government chooses to do, whether that's an action at WWP or an action to New Jersey. So our administration proudly brings forward this recommendation. And when we have the defined ratables, right, and the costs for the assessments by April 29th meeting, we'll be able to talk about the impact to the individual average assessed homes as we do every April. We don't have that yet to speak to. Just know that as home values go up and as more housing stock comes on due to the construction in the community, that's going to shift some things and could help offset some of this, but until we have those, we don't know. But again, we bring forward the recommendation to support our district's mission and our strategic goals with the adoption of tonight's preliminary budget. But we also bring forward a resolution this evening as a member of the administration in partnership with the Board of Education, a resolution to adopt a statement on diversity, equity, and inclusivity. And this time I'm going to ask our board president, and our board vice president to join me in sharing the statement. I'm going to go to sit with them, and then I can take questions afterwards from there.
Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. So I'll read the statement now. This is West Windsor-Plainsboro Board of Education Statement on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity. The West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District cultivates a diverse, inclusive, and welcoming community where every individual is valued, respected, celebrated, and deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of race, ethnicity, nationality, immigration or citizen status, religion, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, ability or disability, socioeconomic status, or other protected characteristics. We recognize that every child residing in West Windsor and Plainsboro has the right to receive a free and appropriate public K-12 education. These values are upheld in our district mission statement to empower all learners to thoughtfully contribute to a diverse and changing world with confidence, strength of character, and love of learning. We believe that every individual has intrinsic worth, that embracing diversity enriches and empowers our community, and that people reach their full potential when encouraged to believe it is possible. As a school community, we will guide and support our students' growth, empowering them to value their individual learning journeys by upholding our adopted strategic goals. Our district upholds the New Jersey Law Against Discrimination, LAD, New Jersey Statutes Annotated 10.5.1 at SEEK, which prohibits discrimination and bias-based harassment based upon actual or perceived characteristics and recognizes the guidance issued by the New Jersey Attorney General, Matthew Platkin. The issued guidance affirmed the legality and importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility policies in K-12 schools. Long-standing legal precedents support these efforts. We recognize diversity is not just a collection of differences, but an important asset that enriches our classrooms, school communities, and beyond. We believe every student has equal right to access a high-quality education, and the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District is dedicated to removing all barriers that impede that access. Equity is not simply treating everyone the same, but rather consciously providing each student with the opportunities, resources, and encouragement they need to succeed and feel empowered.
We will foster inclusive classrooms where all voices are valued and contributions are celebrated. We will empower students to be their authentic selves and create a more open community where differences are embraced, not just tolerated. We will continue to actively listen to and learn from our students, families, and educators to create a truly inclusive and respectful environment. In WWP, every student has a right to a learning environment where all students belong and feel safe, seen, connected, supported, valued, and empowered to reach their full potential. We recognize the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion demands an ongoing process of continual learning. We are committed to creating a culture of continuous learning and reflection in our practices. Continuous learning includes supporting educators, students, and members of our community as they employ evidence-based practices in working with and supporting a diverse student body and community. We understand students deserve to have inspiring educators recruited from a variety of backgrounds and experiences, able to promote the aspiration of learners through example and varied perspectives, while committed to professional growth. We are dedicated to fostering an inclusive and equitable learning environment that celebrates the rich diversity of our students and the world. We commit to employing engaging and relevant teaching methods that value all students, promoting critical analysis of perspectives and challenging stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. We strive to ensure that all students have equitable access to resources, opportunities, and support services. We actively advocate for policies and practices that advance diversity, equity, and inclusion within our schools and our communities.
The West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District believes that by embracing diversity, striving for equity, and fostering inclusivity, we can create a more just and more equitable educational environment for our school community. This is not just our responsibility, but our privilege.
Now I will open it up to the rest of the board for any questions or comments on the principal project's presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to all of the presenters today. Excuse me. As some of you might know, I graduated from the district in the early 2000s, and I remember my friends and I creating a petition to work towards getting Diwali as a school holiday. And for me to see kind of where the district has come through this wonderful presentation has been really inspiring and really grounded to see the progress the district, has made and continues to make. So I just very much appreciate the presentation from everyone tonight.
Thanks for sharing that, Ajanta. Anyone else? Go ahead, Shweta.
Thank you, Graylin. I just want to say thank you for giving an opportunity to speak on such an important statement. I speak as someone who has been an educator myself for over 20 years, as a resident of this beautiful, diverse community, and as a proud board member who is honored to work with these thoughtful, intelligent women and with the strong leadership of Dr. Adderhold and his administrative team. I hope that our commitment to this statement really ensures that every member of this school community feels seen, valued, supported, and that they belong here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shweta. And Liz, I know you had your hand up.
I also want to thank the superintendent, the district staff members, the administration, and everyone who has worked so hard for so long to ensure that this is a community where people do feel safe and respected and valued. And if there's anything that we can do to support that focus and the continued efforts, this is the time. I view that this proposed budget is actually very strategic and important, necessary safeguard to ensure that we continue to do this important work, and I stand by it.
Thanks, Liz. And Louisa?
So stay tuned for when they give us more information about what this actually will feel like. Just know that the 5% is a lot. That's a lot for all of us. Remember that most of that is to keep the lights on. For inflation, things have been catching up with us. So most of it is that. But there is a component of that that's ensuring our protection if we lose federal funds. And, sometimes you have to stand for what you believe in. And I think this is one of those times.
That was really well said, Louisa. I wish we could just end on that, but if anybody, if anybody else has any questions or comments, go ahead, Loy.
I was going to echo what, Liz and Louisa said. Thank you. Really well put. I mean, when I listen to this presentation and I think about the federal funding, the three things I take away is feeding kids, helping kids who are struggling, and supporting teachers who are helping our kids who are struggling, and helping our students who are our special needs students, so sometimes some of our most vulnerable groups. And when I think of it that way, those are the three areas of funding that would be that the federal funding supports. And if that goes away, I mean, that breaks my heart, to be honest. And I'm thankful for the presentation to give a better overview of where that money goes and how we support our students. So I'm very proud of that work and would love to continue supporting our students that would get that funding and our teachers as well.
Thank you, Loy. Anybody else for questions or comments? Okay, well, I just wanted to thank the administration, staff, and my fellow board members for your strategic thinking, hours of deliberation, and agility in the face of tremendous uncertainty. I just wanted to kind of recap some of my key takeaways that I noticed, so please feel free to jump in if I'm mistaken. That was a really long presentation, so I guess just to kind of take it back, that the school budget is a planning tool that considers contingencies, manages risks to Liz's point, and is an investment in our values. So these increased expenses are, to Louise's point, to ensure that the schools are operating properly and the lights are on, but also the needs of and to ensure that the needs of all our students are being met. So we have to account for that and the potential loss of federal aid. And considering that WWP has been working on diversity, equity, and inclusion for years before it was an acronym, which we obviously see interwoven in all of our student programming and support services, we have to remember that the school budget is also a reflection of our values as a community. So thank you again for all of you for trying to connect the dots to help us better understand the thinking and strategy behind this tentative budget proposal. So, so with that, unless there are other questions or comments? No, I thought I saw a hand. Go for it, Dina.
Okay. I actually have a question. Well, thank you all for your presentations. I appreciate that, and all the time that went into it. I just had a couple of questions actually about the budget. How does this increase compare to like some other maybe similar or like districts across the state? I know most haven't voted on anything yet, but just from a sense of how you think that might pan out, I thought that would be something that might be helpful to people. And then also, I know we go over this on April 29th, but how is the tax levy dealt with across the townships? Like how do?
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll take the second first. Second first, the region is appropriated by the number of students in which it sends. It's a two community regional. You know, when the new tax amount is created, obviously we need the new financial, the net taxable values of the community, which we won't get until approximately the middle of April, just prior to the meeting, and be able to calculate that. So we have a lot of residences coming on line. And you're not asking me to answer this part, but I'm going to say is the reason in past years I may have been able to give it's going to be close to this. I'm not going to, can't even come close to that this year because we know we have many residences coming on. We often do the calculation based on last year's net taxable value or the current year's net taxable value and next year's possible tax levy. But this number is not even going to be close probably because the values have changed. We know there's more homes coming on, the value of the community is going to go up, the impact per home goes down, I think is what the question that you're actually asking. I'll stop. I could go on and weave even tighter, but I won't. What was the first part? I'm sorry. Other districts from polling the communities. I mean, I'm not going to give any specific numbers. One community that received tens of millions of dollars in additional aid will be at 2%. The other communities that did not receive tens of millions of dollars of aid are anywhere between low threes and low fours, mid fours. One community has a new referendum that they need to fund, and they're at over 7%. Again, they probably don't have their exact numbers, but they're close estimates. But they're not seeing the growth that we're seeing right now. So again, that's why they're probably more closely guesstimated.
Thanks, Dana. Any other ones before we move on to public comment? Okay. Well, that takes us to our first opportunity for public comment, which I think you've been anxiously awaiting. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes. So I'll invite you all to come up to the podium. Make sure you say your name and address. And you have 3 minutes.
Carl Cooper, District Employee. Madam President, I have been proud to be an employee of WWP Schools for many, many years. I cannot think of a moment when I've been prouder to be a member of this community. Tonight I heard that diversity, equity, inclusion, it's not just what we do, it's who we are. We are a diverse community. We are a community that strives for equity. We are an inclusive community. Madam President, we stand with you. The administrative team, the employees of the district, we are so proud to be a part of WWP. We stand with Dr. Adderhold, his central office team. Thank you for what you're doing for the kids and for the community members of WWP. Wonderful work.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak. I stand before you tonight as an educator, director in the district, and administrator.
Don't forget your name.
Oh, Christine Capassi, 28 Kinglet Drive North. I live in the community. I'm a proud community member. I see my neighbors and friends here. Thank you for coming out. I'm also the proud parent of 6 children who have all come through the district and benefited from the many things you've heard here tonight. I carry with me so many moments that remind me why standing up for every student matters. The all-gender bathrooms that have affirmed my child's identity, the curriculum that didn't just teach history, but affirmed wholeness, that race was not a wound to heal, but a strength to embrace, the specialized programs my children participated in as exceptional learners, both gifted and differently abled, became the bedrocks, the seeds of who they are today. And not just my own children, but I see those seeds beginning to bloom in so many students I get to see every single day in my role. So for me, this resolution is not just words on a page, it's a promise. It's a promise that every student in our district, no matter their identity, their ability, their background, has a place where they belong. It's a declaration that we do not move backwards, that we do not erase, and that we do not bow to fear. I have witnessed the power of inclusion, the transformation that happens when a child feels seen, when a teacher feels empowered, when a school commits to the work of equity, belonging, and truth. I have also seen what happens when inclusion is called into question and when fear dictates policy, when quiet battles of our most vulnerable students go unnoticed. And that is why I'm here tonight to talk about that. It is these moments that matter most, these moments that we can't put a price tag on, moments that help us to remember that every child has a cost far greater than money. And resistance doesn't divide us, but resistance builds, it protects, and it upholds integrity. This is called our positive resistance, and I am so proud to stand among you tonight as you have built that case for us so beautifully. For our students, this represents the the safety, dignity, and promise that they are welcome here, that they have always been, and that they always will. I am so proud of my colleagues, Dr. Adderhold, Sue Totero, Charity, all of you, board members, thank you for the ways that you're upholding our justice and planting those seeds that will continue to bloom. So as we move forward, let's do so not with fear, but with courage, not with retreat, but with resolve. Our North Star remains in all of us and all of you. Let's continue together to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Sam Hendrickson, and I am the proud husband of Christine Capassi, so I too live at 28 Kinglet Drive North. I'm also a retired school administrator. This is an important moment for our district, one in which our mission and values have been tested and affirmed. Tonight, as the Board of Education passes this DEI resolution, I want to express my gratitude for your commitment to ensuring our schools are spaces of belonging for all students, staff, and families. I'd like to share with you a personal experience that shaped my understanding of why this work matters. Our daughter came to us and shared that they are non-binary, identify with the LGBTQ+ community, and were planning to change their name and pronouns. My wife and I listened, and we said, "We love you." In the days that followed, I reflected on that moment and came to two important realizations. First, I don't have to fully understand something to accept it. Second, that as a human being, it's my responsibility to protect the truth of others and create safe spaces where everybody can live authentically. I would later understand this as protecting someone's birthright, their inherent and moral right to live as their true self. Birthrights, much like air conditioning in modern cars, comes standard, not as an optional upgrade. As my friend and colleague Sally Hare wisely said, the purpose of education at its best is to create space for each of us to recognize and deepen our unique birthright gifts. That is what this district's mission statement is all about. So tonight, I want to thank you for passing this DEI resolution. Your decision affirms that we don't need to fully understand every aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion to support it. What we do need is a school community that is committed to being safe, welcoming place for everyone to fully live as themselves. This is how we live our mission with integrity, where our values on the inside match the actions we take on the outside. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Hi, Chandrika Stevenson, district employee. I am the WWPEA president. I'm also a graduate of the district. I just want to commend the district administration and the Board of Education for its commitment for fostering a diverse, equitable, and inclusive learning environment. Our educators are often on the front lines ensuring that every student feels valued, supported, and empowered to reach their full potential. Sorry, this chokes me up, obviously, because I came from this district, and I'm so proud of how far we've come. Looks very differently, the priorities of what I grew up with, and I'm so glad that people are being able to be seen and heard. So it's emotional for me. We support the principles outlined in this resolution and the statement on diversity, equity, inclusivity. It's essential that our schools remain places where all students, all of them, can learn and thrive without any stipulations. As we move forward, our union looks forward to continuing our collaboration with the district to turn these commitments into meaningful action as we've always done. We appreciate the board and the district's leadership in reaffirming these principles and stand ready to work together to make our schools stronger, safer, and more inclusive for all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good evening. Daniel Weiss, 15 Canoe Brook Drive here in West Windsor. For those in the audience who don't know me, I am a council member here in West Windsor and also the West Windsor's liaison to the school board. I was actually going to make a few comments about Belonging Matters Day tomorrow, not realizing about the content today. So I just want to thank everybody for their commitment, for their compassion, for their kindness, and for their courage to do the right thing, because you are doing the right thing. And while I cannot speak for the entire council, I have a pretty strong feeling that you have the entire council at West Windsor supporting you. I personally am the first member of the LGBT community to serve on the West Windsor Council, and I'm honored to have been invited by the High School North GSA to participate in tomorrow's Belonging Day. I'm doing 2 sessions with them, and I've been told that actually both sessions are already completely full, which just means so much to me, not just as a public servant, but as somebody who has firsthand experience about the power of community and acceptance. I hope to be able to continue my work with the GSA. Perhaps we'll do some repeat sessions at other times to help more people participate. And I'm not sure if the folks from High School South are still here. I think they probably have gone home. But I would love to figure out how I can engage with High School South in the similar capacity. I've also been invited at Grover for the Gleason Day of No Silence. I think it's beginning of April. In some capacity, I'll be participating with that. And sort of on the other side of the coin, this past weekend, I spent about 7 hours at the First Tech Challenge Robotics State Championship, where there were at least 3 teams from the greater West Windsor-Plainsboro community, with one of those teams by the name of Don't Blink, who I'm a mentor for, advanced to the World Championships in Houston next month. So the diversity in this community is just off the scale in the context of not just what we look like, but the way we think and the way we use our life's experiences to guide us. So thank you so much again for all your support and commitment.
Thank you. Any other comments for this first opportunity? Seeing none, I will close this opportunity for public comment and move on to our Board of Education committee reports. And I'll ask Dana to give us a report on administration and facilities.
Hello, good evening. Hi, the Administration and Facilities Committee met on Tuesday, March 11th, and the committee reviewed several policies which are recommended for a first reading at tonight's meeting, and they're all on the back table there. I get to clear the house. I guess everyone's going to get the policies, I'm sure. Policy 5512, which is harassment, intimidation, or bullying, and policy 9163 is the spectator code of conduct for interscholastic events. and policy 511, which is eligibility of resident and non-resident students. The committee next reviewed several policies for second reading and approval at tonight's meeting. One is policy 5460, which is high school graduation, and policy 8500, which is food services. And some of what I'm going to say about athletics was already stated by our high school reps, but some of them are so wonderful that they should be repeated, so I will repeat them. Congratulations to the High School North boys basketball team for their Central New Jersey Group 4 runner-up finish. Some of us, a couple of our board members went, and it was a very exciting game with lots of our students there. The girls' winter track team for winning the CVC conference meet, and to wrestling coach Bill Furlong for being named CVC Coach of the Year, and to High School North boys basketball coach Luke Beasley for being named CVC Coach of the Year. And also, as mentioned by the students, CVC Boys Basketball Player of the Year was Malachi Jeffers Vieira. And a job well done to the High School South Boys Swimming Team for their Central A Finals appearance. Boys and girls swimming coach Jessica Bidwell for earning her 200th overall team win. And to several indoor track and field student athletes for their outstanding sectional performance. Julius Kinsler, first place in the 400, and Claire, I hope I say the names right, Claire Dumortier, Adama Ture, Anastasia Kudin, and Saria Hoover for their 4x400 first place finish. We also next discussed the draft resolution, which we've now approved. The committee reviewed and discussed the resolution on diversity, equity, and inclusivity, and the committee will next meet on April 22nd. Thank you. Actually, I don't think we've approved it yet. We're about to.
Thanks, Dana. A good catch right there. Any questions or comments for administration or facilities? All right, perfect. Okay, then we can move on to Loy for curriculum.
Thank you, Graylin. The curriculum committee met on March 11th. We began with a discussion about summer camps. Dr. Gould described the plan for summer camp, which will support our multilingual learners and students receiving intervention support for reading. We next discussed summer curriculum writing process, and Dr. Gould previewed the curriculum writing process and some of the courses being written or revised. And we also discussed the board's resolution draft. At the meeting as well, we reviewed and discussed the resolution on diversity, equity, and inclusivity. On the agenda tonight for voting, we have field trips. The first one, the committee recommends approval for the following overnight field trips. The first for High School North, the Science Bowl team to the National Conference in Washington, D.C. from April 24th to the 28th of this year. The cost of the trip is covered by the Department of Energy. Next, High School South, the Debate Club to Lexington, Kentucky from April 25th through April 28th. The cost of that trip is approximately $1,000 per student. The Curriculum Committee will next meet on Tuesday, April 22nd. Thanks.
Thanks, Loy. Any questions about curriculum? Okay, so I'm going to invite Louisa for a finance report.
Great. The Finance Committee also met on March 11th. The committee reviewed the monthly financial reports. The administration affirmed that no major accounts are overexpended and that sufficient funds are available to complete the year. The committee reviewed the following motions on the agenda for approval: to approve the submittal of the tentative budget for the 25-26 school year, to approve a professional services agreement for services related to the energy savings obligation refunding school bonds for the Energy Savings Improvement Project, to approve cooperative purchases over the bid limit for technology and maintenance, to approve the disposal of obsolete equipment, to approve transportation quotes to and from school and activities routes, to approve staff professional development, travel, and expenses. The administration shared its progress in developing the 25-26 budget. Concerns remain that school districts that do not agree to eliminate all DEI references in policies and programs may lose federal aid. Increases in healthcare and salaries exceed the 2% tax levy increase by more than double. The district will need to utilize the allowable spending growth limitation adjustments and bank cap to balance next year's budget. The final budget calendar was provided to committee members. Regarding the Energy Savings Improvement Program, the first pre-construction meeting was held to review the summer construction schedule, which includes installation of a new HVAC system at Maurice Hawk, replacement of 4 rooftop units, and installation of a new combined heat and power unit at Grover, installation of 2 new boilers at Village, building envelope improvements throughout the district, and optimization of ventilation systems district-wide. Due to the late end of this school year, the summer construction window is compressed. Additionally, delays in finalizing the contract for the power purchase agreement and the Energy Savings Improvement Program have postponed the sale of bonds until July. As a result, funds will need to be withdrawn from the capital reserve to cover expenses incurred before the bond sale. Motions related to project financing will be included in upcoming agendas. For the cafeteria, the number of meals served in February remains consistent with previous months this year. Year over year, the number of breakfasts served has increased while the number of lunches served has declined. Among breakfasts served at the elementary schools, 81% are provided to students who qualify for free, reduced, or New Jersey income eligible meals. Notably, the number of lunches served to students who qualify for free, reduced, NJ income eligible meals has risen by 41% compared to last year, indicating that efforts to reach these students are proving effective. Parent feedback will be solicited at upcoming PTA meetings and marketing events, including Flavor Fest at High School North and a roving chef event at the elementary schools in the month of May. Southwest Food Service Excellence continues to face staffing challenges. They currently have 5 vacant positions. We discussed transportation earlier. For other business, the district's contract with the Cornerstone Church for the additional parking at Wyckoff is now in its 5th and final year. The pastor has submitted a proposal for renewal, which the committee reviewed and discussed. The committee will next meet on Tuesday, April 22nd.
Thanks, Louisa. Any questions for finance? Liz?
I actually had a question for curriculum and instruction, if I may.
Go for it.
Okay, just about that field trip, the one by North for the Science Bowl team to the national conference. The cost of the trip is covered by the U.S. Department of Energy at this time, or?
If it still exists.
If it still exists, okay. And is a follow-up question, is there any indication that it may not at this point?
Not at this moment.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Liz. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Robin.
Is it a bad assumption that we would find funding to support that if that gets?
It may be a bad assumption. I have no information on cost, so we would have to review that should that be a case.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, then that takes us to the voting portion of our meeting. So can I get a motion for administration items numbers 1 through 7? Dana and Liz, any questions or comments?
All of a sudden, I'm going to stutter for no reason. Okay, we'll start Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shah.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes. Can I get a motion for curriculum and instruction, item number 1, Loy and Shweta? Any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Shah.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes. And can I get a motion for finance items numbers 1 through 14 plus the blue addenda items number 1 through 5? Louisa and Ajanta. Any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Shah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm off my timing. Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes. And before we move on to the next item, I'd like to turn it over to Dave before the personnel items.
Thank you, Graylin. This evening, we're accepting the resignation of one of our colleagues at the table. I'd be remiss if we didn't just recognize Dr. Lee McDonald. As many of you know in the audience, Lee has been appointed as the next superintendent at Rumson-Fairhaven High School District. We're extremely proud of Lee and his accomplishments in securing the new role, but more so for the 15 years of dedicated service, partnership, friendship, commitment to this district as Director of Counseling, Director of Guidance, then Director of Counseling Health and Wellness, Assistant Superintendent, Pupil Services Planning, and now Deputy Superintendent. I've also had the opportunity to work with Lee 18 of the past 22 years in another district when I was a second-year assistant principal and he was a second or third-year counselor. Lee, I'm incredibly proud of you. We're going to miss you from the district, but we're thrilled for your opportunity, and we wish you all the best in Rumson-Fairhaven.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Adderhold, for your leadership. It's the model for superintendents here in New Jersey and nationwide, as far as I'm concerned. And I couldn't be more proud to have served in this community for the last 15 years. If tonight's not a testament to that, I don't know what is. I have just been completely honored to have this opportunity. I wouldn't be here otherwise if it weren't for my many amazing colleagues between teachers, counselors, administrators, staff, support staff, the list goes on and on. This community is so fortunate to have your leadership, to have this Board of Education, to have what was displayed tonight is just truly remarkable and what makes WWP so special. And it's bittersweet for me having served here for so many years, and I can't be more proud of the work that's been done here, and just so thankful for the opportunity to serve this community. So thank you very much.
Congratulations, Dr. McDonald. And now, can I get a motion for personnel items number 1 and 2, plus the green and pink addenda? Robin and Liz, any questions or comments?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shah.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. McKeown.
Yes. And speaking of staff who stay, in Charity's words earlier in the presentation, I'd like to recognize a whole lot of retirements from our WWP community. So there's a list. Minakshi Bhattacharya, our high school South biology teacher, is retiring after 25 years of service to the district. Patricia Boyce is our town center elementary school teacher, retiring after 36 years in the district. Stephanie Burnett, Dutch Neck Elementary School teacher, retiring after 15 years. Amy Coffey from Millstone Rivers, an elementary school teacher there, is retiring after 33 years in the district. Ellen Incolingo is our Wyckoff School counselor, retiring after 37 years in the district. Maricel Martin is our Grover Middle School Spanish teacher, retiring after 26 years in district. Cheryl Smith is our High School South School counselor, retiring after 20 years in WWP. Michelle Walsh is also our High School South School counselor, retiring after 25 years in the district. Jean Weinman is our Community Middle School science teacher, retiring after 21 years in the district. Karen Winterstein is our Millstone River Elementary School teacher who is retiring after 12 years at WWP. Elsa Lapidus is our High School South Instructional Assistant, retiring after 26 years in WWP. Rosemary Weiner is our Dutch Neck Elementary School Secretary, retiring after 7 years in district. And Deborah Woloski is our Dutch Neck Elementary School Secretary as well, also retiring after 7 years serving WWP and our school community. So congratulations to everyone, and thank you so much for all of your years of service and dedication to this very special school community, and we wish you well and the best of luck in all your future adventures. Okay, a few more items. Can I get a motion to approve the Board of Education minutes from the February 25th meeting? Pooja and Dana, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any abstentions? Robin?
Yes, I'd like to abstain, please.
Okay. Shweta, are you abstaining from the February 25th? No? Okay. All right. Saw it on minutes. Perfect. Okay, moving on. Do we have any board liaison reports? Dana does.
It's just to make the meeting a little longer, but it's an important one. So, and it goes along the lines of tonight's topics. So we are thrilled and honored to be hosting the second annual Mercer County School Board Association Unsung Heroes event this Thursday, March 20th at High School South. If you're not familiar with this event, it's an event where we celebrate a remarkable group of students, one from each high school in the county, who may not always seek the spotlight, but whose contributions light up their schools and communities in profound ways. And I'd like to thank the WWPEA for their support of the two Unsung Hero awardees from WWP. So we look forward to that event in 2 days.
Awesome. Thanks, Dana. Any other liaison reports? Any new business? Well, then that takes us to our second opportunity for public comments. The board invites comments from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. So if anyone would like to come up to the podium. Going once, going twice, we have a comment.
I got here in time.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Moriarty. I live at 8 Taunton Court in West Windsor. I've represented the special education PTSA for a number of years. I still do this year. We commend the promoting of a diversity and equity, inclusivity statement. We appreciate the fact that disability and ability is included in that statement. But we do want to reinforce that the constraints that are going on now will continue likely for a number of years. And as it's been stated, the dismantling of many of these agencies, even if they were going to be brought back in a new administration in a number of years, will likely not come back to the full fruition of what we have now. So as with anything, when resources get constrained, conflicts ensue. And the special education families have struggled and still face day-to-day challenges for their children, for their students in the district. We hope that as those struggles for resources, as they continue, and they likely will, that the Board of Education and the other people here will continue to remember those families that are struggling every day, probably right now with a child who's struggling to remember that vocabulary test into 11, 12 o'clock at night, the child who doesn't want to go to school the next day because they don't really feel supported. So we hope that these aspirations to support everyone will be a part of continuous improvement initiatives, but it will be hard and it will be strained. And we hope that taxpayers will continue to remember these families, because at some point in our lives, in our arc of our lives, we will all be disabled. We are all going to face an affliction, and whether that's when we're 6, 7 years old, or whether we're 60, 66, 76 years old, to have compassion and to put our money where our mouth is. And if that means a 1%, 2%, 3% increase, and it's spread over, hopefully, an increase in units, that families and the community will remember these families and remember that they're paying forward for a new generation that will hopefully not allow this type of dismantling of such important agencies and funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments for this last opportunity for tonight? Seeing none, I will close this public comment period and ask for a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting. A motion to adjourn for Shweta and Liz. All in favor, say aye. 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 Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Good night.